Welcome to another Dinners of the Week. I'm going to be sharing what we made for dinner this past week as well as our meal plan because I believe that meal planning is a homemaker must. Hi everyone, Jennifer here and welcome back to the Daily Connoisseur. I'm going to be sharing the Dinners of the Week with you in today's video. And let's just jump right in. So the meal plan is not for the past week, but for the past 2 weeks. Basically, if I made something interesting, I filmed it for you. I get burnt out on filming everything I cook because it's quite a lot of work. So sometimes I just feel a bit lazy and don't want to break out the camera. But if I make something interesting, I do. So here is what I have for you in today's video. We made some homemade Subway sandwiches. We made salmon en croûte. It's a very fancy meal, but it's extremely easy to make. We also made, I made fried chicken earlier in the week, and so I made some of the leftovers into a chicken Parmesan pasta. We made some New England Clam Chowder with a salmon pomegranate salad. That was so good. I show you how we do our cheeseburgers, which we usually have once a week or so. And I also made crock pot ribs with a baked potato. And finally, creamy mushroom chicken with acorn squash. So without further ado, let's get into the meals. Okay, I'm making homemade Subway sandwiches for the entire family. The kids tend to split these, so that's why I only have 4 buns here. So basically, I just have an assortment of meats and cheeses. And right now, I'm just using my salad spinner to get my lettuce nice and clean. And now that that's ready, I'm just going to normally create an assembly line, but I'll just assemble one sandwich for you right now so that you can just see what my plan is. Okay, so I open up the bread and I place all of the toppings on. Now I don't put the mayonnaise and mustard on the bread directly because I don't want it to get soggy. So I'm starting off with the shredded lettuce, and I'm also going to put on some sliced onion and pickles. And these pepperoncinis, which are really good, but they're very spicy, so I just put a few of those on. I'm now going to put some red wine vinegar and olive oil, salt and pepper, just like they do if you go into a Subway restaurant. I'm basically copying what they do here. Now I like to put the salt directly on my tomatoes because I really like salted tomatoes, and those are still the beefsteaks from our garden that they just keep on giving. I'm putting some sliced provolone cheese. You could use any type of cheese that you like. And now I'm going to layer the deli meats. So I believe that's like a rotisserie chicken shaved, and then I have some ham and I have some salami there. You could put pepperoni or mortadella, any type of deli cut that you would like to use in your sandwich. Now I'm going to put the mayonnaise and mustard on the actual meat itself again so the bread doesn't get soggy. And do you have any Grey Poupon? Who remembers that commercial from the 80s? The best commercial ever. So I'm just going to spread this all, and this is it. I mean, it's very easy, but this is a very satisfying meal. And you can see how big the sandwich is. That's why the kids will just split one of these each. So I wouldn't make them for every member of the family, but Ben and I will definitely eat this sandwich. And there you go, homemade Subway sandwiches. All right, let's make salmon en croûte. So I have some puff pastry here. You could find this in the frozen section of your local grocery store, usually next to the pie crusts. So I'm just going to roll out one puff pastry that's been thawed onto a floured cutting board. And I had some leftover cream spinach. Cream spinach is my favorite vegetable side dish, so I'm always making it. And I had some leftovers from a steak dish that I made. So I'm just going to put this here. Now, if you don't have leftover cream spinach, I can leave a recipe in my corresponding blog post for you to make something like this. But you could also use spinach artichoke dip. Okay, I have my giant fillet of salmon right here. I just took one of those Costco ones and I actually cut about 3/4 of it off. I'm using the rest later in the week to make that salmon salad. So I'm just going to put some salt and pepper on this. I also took the skin off, that's important to note. But just get your salmon fillet and place it on top of the cream spinach here. And now I'm going to top the salmon fillet with a bit more salt and pepper and the rest of the cream spinach. This is a very impressive dish to serve to guests, and it's very easy to prepare ahead of time, and then you could just pop it in the oven about 25 minutes before you're ready to eat. Now I'm going to fold the puff pastry over the salmon and wrap it up kind of like in an envelope. But before I do that, I'm going to take some egg wash along the seams of the puff pastry so that it all sticks together nicely. Okay, now comes the stressful part of transferring this to my baking dish, which should be greased, by the way. So I always get stressed with doing things like this, but before I put it in, I'm actually going to score it. So I'm going to take a knife. Now I went a little too deep, just lightly score the top. I cut too deep, it still turned out great, but next time I'm not going to score it all the way through. You're just gonna cut it slightly on the top in a nice little crisscross pattern here, and then you're going to brush the top with egg wash again, and that's going to make it nice and golden brown. If you can get 2 spatulas like I'm doing here, that's just the best way to lift it in. So airlift that into your prepared baking dish, and you're going to bake this at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes. And this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Again, I scored it too much, so it really opened up, but honestly, it is so good. It looked amazing on the plate, and it tasted so good. Everybody in the family liked this, and I was surprised because not everybody likes cream spinach in my family. So I just served it with some really thinly sliced oranges and some more tomatoes with some salt and pepper on top. It was an absolute hit and so delightful. I really do recommend salmon en croûte. Okay, now I'm just going to show you how I use leftovers. So I had some fried chicken that I made earlier in the week, and I'm just adding this to a marinara sauce that I have going on the stove. I have some rotini pasta boiling as well, and I'm just going to add all of this together and just make a really easy chicken parmesan pasta. This is the type of thing that everybody likes, and it was made on a very busy day. So I like to transform leftovers into things like this that I know the family's going to eat. And I'm just going to put in some shredded mozzarella cheese here and some seasonings, make sure it's seasoned right. And that's about it. I left the chicken a bit larger. Obviously this is not a traditional chicken parmesan. I just wanted the flavors here. So this was a big hit, and it was a great way to transform those leftovers. Today we made New England Clam Chowder and a salmon salad with pomegranate. This was such a good meal. I loved it. So here we go. I'm going to
get my potatoes diced, and here's my trick for doing so. I put them in the French fry cutter like this, so it already gets them into a nice French fry cut, and then I'm just going to chop them into a dice. So I find that a lot easier than actually dicing the potatoes. Now this is not exact. I'm a lazy chef, so I'm not doing perfect little cubes here. I'm just trying to get them down a little bit. But I find that this soup cooks down a lot anyway, and the potatoes almost look mashed by the time they're in the soup. So this works out just fine. So in my giant stock pot, I am going to be browning some bacon, and of course I'll have the exact recipe linked in my corresponding blog post. I'm going to take the bacon out but leave all that nice fat in the pan, and I'm just going to put in some onion, and typically celery would be what I'd put in here, but I didn't have any celery, so I'm just going to use chopped carrots. So just improvise with whatever you have. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that those are browned. It takes about 5 minutes or so. Okay, I'm just pouring in some water there, and this is key. 1 bottle of clam juice. That's very important. So I'm going to be pouring that in. And now I'm just adding some chicken bouillon. Again, I'll have the recipe linked down below, and all of the potatoes. By the way, I like to keep the skin on my potatoes. And I'm also adding some chopped thyme from the garden. So I'm just going to mix this all together. And now for the thickener. I'm going to be adding some flour to some, it's a half and half mixture basically. So I'm going to add that in, and that's going to thicken up the sauce. And I'm just going to mix that up a little bit. Now I'm going to add the rest of the half and half in. And I'm going to put in 1 can of clam sauce. You could also do 2 cans of clams, you know, the smaller cans. But this works perfectly for this, and that's what I had. I bought one of those giant packs in my prepper pantry. So this is what it looks like, and meanwhile, while that's cooking, I'm just going to make the salad. So I'm going to get out my handy salad spinner here, and I'm just going to spin the leaves and make sure they're nice and clean. And I'm going to add the rest of the salmon. So I had more salmon from the fillet when I made the salmon en croûte, and I just roasted that. I'm going to put it in the bowl along with some pomegranate. I got some amazing pomegranates from my sister's tree, so we have so many, and I'm trying to put them in recipes. And now I'm going to put in some crumbled goat cheese, some cranberries and glazed walnuts, and some croutons. I always put croutons in my salad. So I'm just going to mix everything up really nicely. You could put any type of salad dressing on this, but I'm choosing to put a poppy seed dressing because I thought it'd be nice to have something sweet as a juxtaposition to the New England Clam Chowder. So here it is. I'm just putting that crumbled bacon on top. Don't forget that last finishing step. This was absolutely delicious, so good. And that's what the soup looks like. And there is the beautiful salmon pomegranate salad. So this was an absolute hit. It was delightful, and Ben and I especially really loved this dish. By the way, this placemat and napkin ring, they're going to be showing up in my holiday gift guide. They're from John Robshaw. They have beautiful table linens and textiles. So I wanted to show you those here as well. All right, now I'm going to show you how we do our cheeseburgers because we have these about once a week. So I'm just arranging the toppings because everybody likes different things. So I'm putting cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, sliced onions, and pickles. And I have this really neat marble slab. This is also going to be in my holiday gift guide from John Robshaw. It's so nice. It's very affordable. It's recycled, made from unwanted marble slabs. So I think it's great for like a cheese board or just a beautiful way to display food. Okay, so I'm just going to put some ketchup and mustard on my cheeseburger. Everybody else already made theirs, so I'm just kind of showing you the drugs here. I'm always last, but anyway. Ketchup and mustard on my cheeseburger. Ben grilled the burgers on the grill and the cheese melted. And so I have some sliced onion, always the beefsteak tomatoes. I'm gonna put lots of lettuce on top and some pickles. I really like pickles. Now you could also do Thousand Island dressing as well. But I chose not to today. And the buns are those sweet Hawaiian roll buns. And this is just our cheeseburger, and honestly, so filling and delicious. that's just how we do it. But I like to lay out all the toppings so that people can choose what they want on their own burger. Today I made crock pot ribs with jacket potatoes. So here is our crock pot, and I actually did this the night before, but I put my ribs, they're boneless ribs, into the crock pot with some barbecue sauce, and I put them on low for about 9 hours or 8.5 hours, I can't remember. But when I woke up, they were ready because I knew we were going to be having these for lunch. So I just let them sit on warm the rest of the day. And I'm just doing some frozen peas and diced carrots. That's always a hit with everybody, just as a very simple side. So I made this on a busy homeschool day. So it was helpful to prepare the meat the night before. I have the jacket potatoes in the oven, baked potatoes, Americans call them. Just served it up with some sour cream, chives, and butter. And this was just really delicious, very hearty. And I prepared everything in advance so that by the time lunch rolled around, we had a really delicious lunch. So that was one tip. I sometimes like to cook the meat all night long and just keep it warm until lunchtime if we're having an early, basically an early dinner was what this was. Now I call it a baked potato, but Ben calls it a jacket potato, so I just get used to calling it what he does so that he understands what I'm talking about. One tip on how I make the baked potato is to rub it in olive oil and put seasonal on top of it and then roast it in the oven. So that's a great way, because I like to eat the potato skin too because it has all of the nutrients in there. And finally, I'm going to make a creamy mushroom chicken with acorn squash, perfect for fall. So I'm going to take my chicken breasts and season them with lemon pepper. A lot of people don't think of this as a chicken seasoning. They mainly think of it as fish, but trust me, it's so good on chicken. So I'm just going to fry the chicken in my cast iron skillet. And I have here 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. That's what I'm frying it in. Just putting the lemon chicken side down, and then I'm going to sprinkle a bit more lemon chicken on the other side. So you're going to brown the chicken on each side about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how thick they are. I have some sliced baby bella mushrooms and some minced garlic there, some heavy cream. This is what we're going to be using, and I have some chopped thyme from the garden. Okay, I'm just preparing the acorn squash here, and I have a bain-marie, which is just a little bit of water in the bottom of this baking dish. And then I put the acorn squash in there with a big pat of butter and some maple syrup on top. And you can just roast this for about an hour at about 400 degrees. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven, and it's perfectly cooked. So you're just going to take that flesh and scoop it out and mash it all together. And you can even add some more butter and maple syrup if you want, and it's just the flavor of fall. It's so delicious. Now I'm going to take my chicken out and just put it in a little tent of aluminum foil, and into the drippings I'm going to put my chopped mushrooms, and I'm going to saute those until they get nice and soft. I'm going to add my minced garlic here and just cook that a little bit more. I'm just showing you where the chicken is. Now that the mushrooms are nice and brown and almost caramelized, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of chicken broth and a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. I'm just going to stir this until the sauce thickens a little bit. Just going to take my chopped thyme and oregano and put that in there. If you don't have that fresh, you could just use some parsley flakes or some type of Italian seasoning. That would work really well with this. Now I'm just going to grate some fresh Parmesan cheese into the sauce, and that also thickens it up. And this is what the sauce looks like. Now you're just going to put your chicken breast back in the pan and cover it with this delicious sauce. going to finish this off in the oven. You could just put it in, oh, I don't know, I put it in about 350 degrees for about 10 to 15 more minutes. And this is what it all looks like when it's ready to go, and this is what it looks like on the plate. I'm just going to grate some extra Parmesan cheese on top. And this was such a delicious dish. It was just the perfect fall flavors. The nuttiness of the acorn squash and that deep, earthy umami flavor from the mushrooms and the cream on the chicken. It was really, really good. So I highly recommend this dish.
I hope you enjoyed this Dinners of the Week. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also share any recipes that you have down below that you've enjoyed lately, or any requests that you would like to see on this channel. In the meantime, remember to keep calm and remain classy and enjoy your seasonal cooking. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Daily Connoisseur, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!